There's been a bit of a critical race theory bitch fight going on. So the different media outlets are endlessly fighting about this because, of course, the parents are rising up against critical race theory in schools, and the response from the right is do more of it, and the response from the left is let's play word games and try and get out of this because we look bad promoting segregation. So first thing is I want to start with this book, Critical Race Theory, edited by Kimberly Crenshaw, one of the people very much behind this, the person who came up with the concept of intersectionality within law as well, and some quotes that Carl's been highlighting in here, which I think are extremely relevant. So, they say, the critical race theorists, this mainstream civil rights discourse on race relations was constructed this way partly as a defense against the more radical ideologies of racial liberation presented by the black nationalists and black consciousness movements of the 60s and the early 70s. In the construction of racism as an irrational and backwards bias of believing that someone's race is important, the American cultural mainstream neatly linked the black left to the white racist right. According to this quickly concealed consensus, because race consciousness characterized both white supremacists and black nationalists both as racists. So the liberal tradition was made sure by the civil rights movement, if you were arguing for racial consciousness, then you would be seen as a racist. They correctly identify that, yes, the liberals and the conservatives think all of you are racists who are trying to promote racial consciousness. With its explicit embrace of race consciousness, critical race theory aims to re-examine the terms by which race and racism have been negotiated in American consciousness, and to recover and revitalize the radical tradition of race consciousness among African Americans and other peoples of color, a tradition that was discarded when integration, assimilation, and the idea of colorblindness became the official norms of the racial enlightenment. Right, so their words, they are literally like, we need to raise racial consciousness, which all of America considers racist, particularly the civil rights movement considered racist, and also the modern concept of we should be assimilating people, we should be desegregating, all the rest of that. Those people think we're racist for doing this, and yes, we are. We are the ones trying to raise racial consciousness. I mean, if you don't want a better summation of why these people are bad people, they're trying to enforce in law racial segregation, we'll get to it in a minute. The first essay written in here, the founder of critical race theory in law, is a guy called Derek Bell. His first essay is him arguing against Brown in Brown v. Board of Education. He's arguing with the segregationists that desegregation was bad for the black population.
It's absurd. Why would anyone want to argue that? Well, other than being a critical race theorist, of course.
That's the thing. These people are absolutely nuts. So, to get into the story, the beef fight, so this is the segment from Tucker Carlson in which he had a guy called Chris Rufo on, who's been attacking critical race theory throughout the country, and he's had a bit of a fight with a lady named Joy Reid. And Joy Reid is a leftist who believes in all this, and therefore, I presume, believes in segregation, actually. So let's play the first clip of her saying that if you oppose such things, if you oppose segregation, you're the racist, folks.
We've seen a growing movement to reframe how American history is taught in public schools. Well, some parents who are opposed to critical race theory as new curriculum aren't too pleased.
Just because I do not want critical race theory taught to my children in school does not mean that I'm a racist, damn it.
Actually, it does. It's just another example of Republicans turning kids into a wedge issue, just like their politically motivated attacks on transgender youth who just want to play sports.
Immigrant parents come to this country, I'm sure they were nice people, send their daughter to Harvard, and that's what you get. It really is. Our system produces the worst people.
I love how condescending Tucker can be to some awful people. And he's completely correct there. I mean, nice lady at a meeting is saying, hey, these folks who have been advocating segregation is good. Maybe don't teach that to my kids. Maybe don't teach that the white kids are evil and the black kids are inferior. Maybe just treat them as the civil rights movement wanted. As all of us have come to the consensus on, the liberal tradition of the content of your character is important, not the color of your skin. Yeah, they're the racist people, are they, Joy? Jesus Christ. So she accused Mark Ruffo of being a privileged white male for daring to criticize her on all this, and that's the next clip, so let's play.
She went on to say that Chris Rufo was only disagreeing with her because he wanted to get on her show. Quote, "This is a weirdly aggressive way to get yourself on TV, Christopher. Why not just contact my booking producers like a normal person rather than going through with the white man demands option?" What a bigot she is, and an unhappy person. My word. Chris Rufo is, in fact, one of the most effective journalists and filmmakers in the country. We're happy to have him on with us tonight. He still remains. So, Chris Rufo, I'm surprised you're not in hiding after the Washington Post and MSNBC have decided, you should shut up. Be quiet, Chris Rufo.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, I'm eating his pieces for breakfast. It's really not fazing me at all. I'm laser focused on my mission. And the fact is that the Washington Post spent 3 weeks. They deployed 2 reporters trying to attack me, trying to undermine me. It backfired spectacularly. They had to retract or add 6 paragraphs in the story. They had to reverse one of their key accusations against me. They admitted to fabricating a timeline of events that was key to their story. And then they really couldn't provide any evidence when I challenged them, claiming that they didn't have an audio recording or a transcript of the quotations they used and had falsified. So it doesn't bother me one bit. I think it really shows that we're having an impact. We've woken up millions of parents to the dangers of critical race theory. They're now starting to take action in school boards across the country. And these neo-racist bigots are starting to get worried.
I mean, fantastic. And these are the 2 protagonists we have here. We have Joy Reid, MSNBC, the leftist organization here, being like, if you oppose us, if you oppose critical race theory, you're a racist. And you got Mark Rufo over here, who's just like, yeah, don't teach this in schools. This is racist nonsense. And in their own words, the critical race theorists say that they are going to raise racial consciousness. That is their goal in exactly the same way as the Klan. Their words. In the same way that the white racist right wanted to raise racial consciousness, the black nationalists wanted to do it, and therefore the public rightly saw them both as evil. And this is a problem because we quite like to help left racism, and therefore we've invented this way of theorizing it to get past that barrier. Their words. Their goddamn words. If you want to read longer to page 14 for that one, and that's the quotes. So the character Joy Reid, she's most well known actually, at least from what I can see, is for some cover-up she's tried to do of her own extremism. So this is a clip from Dave Rubin in which he points out that MSNBC were caught stealth editing their own content. So the show goes out live on TV, and then they upload like clips to the internet. And for some reason, they decided to delete the following clip, which they did not want to show. So let's play the next clip here of what they didn't want to show.
And let's just listen to Louis Gohmert. And if he's claiming that he was being told by Capitol Police officers that there was going to be this influx of Antifa, who they've claimed were basically the devil, they're just anti-fascists, they don't really show up anywhere. If we're seeing in some of these cases where Proud Boys and et cetera are saying that they anticipated that Antifa would come and fight them, that Black Lives Matter supporters would come and fight them so that Donald Trump could then impose the Insurrection Act. And
the portion of the discussion is mysteriously not included in the segment that MSNBC uploaded online, but has been obtained by the Gateway Pundit. That's what we just showed you. The timestamp was also removed from the bottom right corner of the screen of their upload, possibly to cover up the edit. It is present in the original clip.
So they deleted her saying that Antifa are just anti-fascists. It's just the most pathetic, brain-dead thing to say at this point.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. They burnt down half of America.
And also her with this conspiracy theory that Trump wanted Antifa to turn up to fight his guys, and therefore he could put the Insurrection Act into act. But yet he gave a speech in which he said, peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. So those just nonsense rambling. And that's her. That's what she's famous for. That is her position on this. So she invited Rufo on to have a discussion about this. Kind of just to berate him, to be honest, when you watch the full clip. She doesn't want him speaking at all. And we're going to play some of this because the catfight here is just totally worth it. So let's play the first thing in which she just plays word games.
You say that Ibram Kendi, Dr. Ibram Kendi, who's a college professor, you call him the guru of critical race theory. We reached out to him. We asked him if he's a critical race theorist. He said, I admire critical race theory, but I don't identify as a critical race theorist. I'm not a legal scholar, so I wasn't trained on critical race theory. I'm a historian. And Chris would know this if he actually read my work or understood that critical race theory is taught in law schools. I didn't attend law school, which is where critical race theory is taught. It's really the only place it's taught.
It's very interesting to me that so many people are now running away from the race of the label of critical race theory. But
he's not a critical race theorist.
Hold on. I'm going to quote 2 critical race theorists. Barbara Applebaum with the book Being Good, Being White. She says, quote, all white people are racist. Robin DiAngelo, who's another critical whiteness studies scholar, says that, quote, all white identity is inherently racist. So what you're doing is you're playing a series of word games. You know that critical whiteness studies is a subfield of critical race theory?
No, it's not.
These things are all deeply interrelated.
No, they're not.
And I'm not going to let you play word games. And this is really, I think, the most essential thing.
Hold on. No.
Let me respond at least once. I haven't gotten a full sentence out.
Because I'm not going to let you see. One of the things that, and I don't know, you probably never watched me on TV. Just we didn't know who each other were, not so long ago. But I don't allow people to just make up and say lies on the show.
Well, then you're going to have to ban yourself. I mean, that's the problem there.
Wow, the lack of self-awareness there.
The
I don't allow people to
smile.
say lies. What?
Just everything about her demeanor, her attitude in this is horrible enough. And then her argument is terrible as well. So her essential argument, you'll hear this throughout, and is demonstrated there, that she's like, well, there's critical race theory, and if everyone says that there's something else from that, even if it's derived from that, therefore they have no involvement with the original thing. I mean, it's like saying the theory of gravity has nothing to do with physics, because it's not physics, it's gravity. Like, that's not an argument. There's just nothing. So, for example, she talks about intersectionality, and she's later on, and she's like, yeah, intersectionality has nothing to do with critical race theory. It's like, it's literally a subfield of that field. But okay, like, therefore, gravity mechanics, quantum mechanics, nothing to do with physics, because physics is a different thing.
Even if it doesn't have anything formally to do with it, just the fact that the kind of people who believe in it also believe in the other thing as well, and they co-occur very often, is surely an indication that they're related in some way.
Yeah, because, I mean, the fundamental thing here is the worldview. The worldview in which you assess problems of race. You have the liberal lens of race, in which you say that you should be treated by the content of your character, not colour of your skin, Martin Luther King there, and all the rest of it, in which is like, look, the procedure, treat people the same. That's the lens. And then you've got the socialist lens of coming along and being like, yeah, white people are oppressing black people by their mere existence, and therefore we need to equalize the world on this basis. And also, if we segregate the white kids away from the black kids, then the world will be better, because I've got a big brain, I can deal this out. Why? Because the black kids will be better off. Like, okay. So
they not even explain why they would be better off either.
Well, the first essay in here, which is the guy founding critical race theory, the Dendrick, I forgot his name already, Mr. Bell. His argument for why desegregation was bad, and what they should have done was kept the black and white kids separate in America, and instead just increased the level of educational quality in the black schools. So he had no problem with the separate part. He just had a problem with the equal part. He was like, no moral quandary whatsoever with segregating kids on the basis of their race. What I've got a problem with is just the schools in the black areas were lower quality. If they were equal or higher quality, he had no problem. No problem with the whole situation. I mean, a horrible position to be in. But that's the founder of critical race theory. That's the founding essay of all this. Anyway, so let's go on to the next clip here, in which he argues that whiteness was made in America to exclude Africans, which doesn't make any sense.
Whiteness is the idea that there is some kind of metaphysical category in the world, that all white people are reducible to this essence of whiteness. And then what they do is they try to impose these reductive racial categories onto individuals.
Whiteness was actually formed in the United States. That whiteness didn't even exist as a thing. Europeans were all European. They considered themselves Italian or Polish or whatever. When the colonists came here, they actually created the idea of whiteness. This is from the Smithsonian.
I agree with that.
As a way to distinguish themselves from what they call the savages, the natives, and from black people, from Africans, who even if you had a little African in you, if you're Plessy, who's 7/8 white, if you are African in any aspect, that you are reduced of rights.
I mean, thanks for calling the Irish Africans then, I guess, because they're going to be excluded by the fact that they're not white according to the European standards there. Remember that everyone's blah, blah, blah. Like, the Irish weren't white for the longest time. Still are, to be honest, but never mind.
Wait, what?
I just love throwing hand grenades in there. But also just the idea that, like, Europeans had never interacted with Africa or Asia or anything. The idea that they didn't have a concept of the fact that people in Europe were lighter skinned than, say, the sub-Saharan African area or Arabia, I find doubtful. But anyway, she says, according to the Smithsonian, this is the case, and everyone's seen the Smithsonian chart. This is the chart in which they have aspects and assumptions of whiteness and white culture, and the Smithsonian really made this, and it's embarrassing because, of course, it just describes being British. So for example, they give some of the aspects of whiteness as individualism. Does individualism describe the Germans? They also say Protestant work ethic. Is a Protestant work ethic really what comes to mind when you think of the Italians? They also say about steak and potatoes, bland is best, is a feature. Does that really describe the French? No. None of these things describe anything like that. If it wasn't clear enough, they also have aspects in here. History, heavy focus on the British Empire. Justice, based on English common law. Communication, the King's English rules.
Yeah.
England. Whiteness.
Of course, the continent focuses on the King's rules,
Just
referring to, of course, the UK.
English common law. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really defines Poland.
I wish France and Germany had followed English common law.
So it's pathetic. Like, no, whiteness in the American terminology just means being English. Everyone knows this because the 13 colonies and the foundation of the United States is an Anglo nation. It is an Anglo place. It is a place from the Anglo-Saxons, the English. See how that works. Anyway, let's go to her next clip in which she continues to avoid trying to admit what she is.
What I don't think is right is that forcing 8-year-olds in Cupertino, California to deconstruct their racial identities and then rank themselves according to power and privilege. It's intersectionality theory, which was invented by Kimberly Crenshaw.
Intersectionality is a separate thing.
Which is part of critical race theory.
No, it's not, dear.
You had her on your show. You know this.
Yeah, she invented
here's
both
the bottom
things.
Line, Joy.
She invented
what you've
both
done
things.
in tonight's segment is exactly what I'm fighting against. I'm fighting against the manipulation of language. I'm fighting against language
You're fighting against wokeness, and you don't like corporate wokeness, etc. I get it.
Euphemistic terms with subversive content. Because otherwise, you just say whatever you want, and then you back away from it, and you dance around it. It's not going to happen. Parents all over this country, they know what's happening in schools. They know what's happening in their public institutions. And you're seeing people revolt against this divisive identity politics. And you can dance all you want, but you're not going to stop people from understanding what's happening in their classroom.
True. Great way to end it for him there, making that point. It was the only other part in that interview in which he was able to end a sentence. But his point there, it doesn't matter how you keep jumping around it and keep trying to deny that, quantum mechanics has anything to do with physics. They're different things, don't you know? Intersectionality's got nothing to do with critical race theory, even though it's a subfield, but whatever. Like, this is her position, and it's laughable. When you start segregating kids in the classroom, the parents are going to notice. Your position is indefensible. And anyway, I just wanted to end on Tucker Carlson's summation of all this, because he sums it up rather well, I think.
Really realizing how deeply rooted racism is into my everyday thought process.
A living, embodied anti-racist culture does not exist among white people. White people got to start getting together specifically around race.
White accountability groups are really helpful.
There's a period of deep shame for being white.
This is really sick, and it's a complete dead end that will tank the country if we allow it to continue. Everyone is created equal in the eyes of God, and if you don't act that way and judge people based on who they are and what they do, the choices they make, and instead judge them on the color of their skin, it's over.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.